Okay, so I'm going to go over your review. Alright, so number one, the lengths of the sides of a triangle are 6x plus 1, 5x minus 7, and 3x minus 3. Express the perimeter of the triangle in terms of x. So what they're saying is they have a triangle. Okay, that's going to work. There's a triangle, and the sides are 6x plus 1, 5x minus 7, and 3x minus 3. And they want you to find the perimeter. How do we find the perimeter of a shape? You add all the sides, right? So we want to add 6x plus 1 plus 5x minus 7 plus 3x minus 3. Right? We want to add all the three sides up together. Okay? You're combining like terms, exactly. You want to combine the x's and your constant terms, right? And then if you remember from last semester from the CBA, there was on the cheat sheet, right? If they give you an expression, right, and then they give you answer choices, you can put this one in the first box, right, and then one at a time put in your answer choices, and whichever gives you the exact same line, then that's the answer. Remember that? Okay. So you can either add them up. You should be able to do it easy, no problem. But if for some reason you can't, or if you want to check your answer, put this in the box 1, and then one at a time. Put these in each. Put these in a second box, and see which ones match. Okay. Got it? Alright, so go ahead and work on that real quick. Okay, number 2, which expression is equivalent to, and they give you this expression right there. So same thing. You either combine all your like terms, and be careful with this negative one, right? You have to distribute the negative one, but all the plus are fine. Or, like we just talked about, equivalent means you put this in box 1, and one at a time put these in box 2. And whichever matches exactly is your answer. You have to put the whole thing. The whole thing, and is exactly as you see it. Parentheses and all. Okay? Don't be lazy. The least you can do is just type it all. Alright? So go ahead and do that real quick. A shoe company is going to close one of its 2 stores and combine all the inventory from both stores. These polynomials represent the inventory in each store. Which expression represents the combined inventory of the 2 stores? Combine. What does combine mean? You add them together, right? So we're adding store A plus store B. Yeah. So again, 5 over 2g squared plus 3 over 2 plus 4g squared minus 3 over 5g plus 3 over 4. You have to type all of this in box 1, and then one at a time check your answer choices. Okay, this one, be careful with this one because this one's a little long, right? Especially with the dividing. And also, you're going to have to switch what? What do you have to change? G to X. Good. Okay, so do that real quick. Okay, number 4. The expression x raised to the 3rd power times x raised to the negative 17 is equivalent to x to the n. What is the value of n? Okay, so look at your formula chart. And we're dealing with the properties of exponents. Which rule are we going to use for this question?
Product of powers.
Product of powers, right? So a to the m times a to the n equals a to the m plus n. Right? So here I have x to the 3rd times x to the negative 17. So that's going to equal like
X
to the 3 plus negative 17. Right? So you have to do 3 plus negative 17.
Negative 14.
Okay, thanks for the answer. X to the n. So then what does n equal? Negative 14. Good. Make sense? Okay, so when you're multiplying, you're adding the exponents, and that's on your formula chart. Okay? Any questions about that? Everybody see where I got that? Because the parentheses means you're multiplying. Right here, that means you're multiplying.
How do you get 4? Oh, you minus
3 plus negative 17. 17 minus 3, 14. Negative is the bigger one. Okay, let's go on to the other side. Number 5. Okay, the area of a rectangle is 42 x to the 7, y to the 6 square yards. If the length of the rectangle is 7x squared y to the 5th yards, which expression represents the width of the rectangle in yards? So, for a rectangle, area is length times width, right? They give me the area, which is, and they give me the length, which is this, right? But they want to know the width. What do I have to do to solve for the width here? Divide by what? Just the length. I'm just divide by the length, right? If I divide by the length, this cancels out. And so I have the width is equal to the area divided by the length, right? Does that make sense? So the area divided by the length. So my width is going to equal to my area, which is 42 x to the 7, y to the 6, divided by 7x squared y to the 5th. Okay, so if you were doing this by hand, you would do 42 divided by 7, 6, and then you would do x to the 7 divided by x squared. Okay, if you look at your formula chart on quotient of powers, when you multiply, you add, right? But when you divide, you subtract the exponent. So it'd be 7 minus 2 and 6 minus 5. Remember that? Okay, so you could do that. Now, here is a trick on Desmos. Be careful with this because it can get a little confusing. Okay, so normally we substitute letters with x and y, right? Now we're going to go backwards. Okay, I know it's weird, but we're going to go backwards. So you're going to go on to Desmos. Okay, and you're going to type the area, which was
42x to the power of 7y.
Okay, but instead of x, we're going to use a to the power of what?
7. And b to the power of
Yeah, b to the power of 6, and then that is all. Nope. That is all being divided by what? 7 a to the what? A to the power of 2 and b to the power of 5. Okay, so I switched x with a, y with b. Okay. Now, you see where it says add slider? You're going to click on all. Okay. Right now they're both on 1. What you're going to do is, depending on how many letters you have or variables, you're going to start at 2 and then go to 3, 4, 5. We don't want 1. Okay, so this one we're switching to 2, and this one to 3. And you don't want them to be the same either. Okay. Okay, so it gives you this numerical value of 576. Now, what you're going to do, one at a time, is type in your answer choices the same way, except we're going to do, instead of the x, we're going to do a, and instead of the y, we're going to do b. So, like if I put a is 35, a raised, a and b, so a is raised to the fifth power and b is by itself, and I get 3,360. That's wrong. They're supposed to be equal. Okay, so I'm going to switch to b. B is 49, and then x raised 8 raised to the 9, and b, nope, b raised to the 11, and that's completely off. Okay, so now I'm going to try c.
Wait, is it like match the top?
Yes, so 6, a to the fifth power, b raised to the 1, I guess, and I get 576. Okay, so they're the exact same. What's up?
How do you know what was put right there?
This one? These two?
Yeah.
Okay. Always start with 2, and they can't be the same number. So no matter what numbers I put, you can put whichever numbers. As long as they're not the same, they still match up. Just two numbers don't match, and they're not 1 or 0.
Okay.
Not 1 or 0, and they don't match. You can choose whatever numbers. I just do 2, 3, 4.
2, 3.
2, 3, 4, 5. That's what I would do. Okay, so not 1 or 0, and they don't match. Okay, whatever. Yeah, and they're still the same thing. Okay. Any questions on how to do this? Okay, so what I will say is, if you see exponents and there's no equal signs, that's what tells you that you have to do a and b instead of x and y. Okay, does that make sense? And if you see equal signs and not a lot of exponents, that's when you do the x. Okay, basically, if you only see one variable, then x is good. But if you have multiple, that's when you have to do a, b, and c, and d, and e, and f. Okay, does this make sense? Any questions? Okay, I think it's easier just to do 42 divided by 7, 7 minus 2, 6 minus 5. But if you need this, use this. That's fine. Okay. Like, you're not going to do anything with this. If you're using Desmos, then this is it. But if you're doing it by hand, look, 42 divided by 7, 6. A to the 7 minus 2, 5. 6 minus 5, b to the 1. Okay? So if you're dividing, the numbers you actually divide, and the exponents you subtract. Okay? So yes, it would be
subtract exponent
when dividing, yes. And remember that the area is length times width, so the width is area divided by the length. Okay?
So in that case, the multiplication will add.
Exactly. Which is what we did the question before. Okay? Any questions? All right. I'm going to pause here.